Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Dan O'Brien. I am a senior partner here at ActionCOACH in Central Texas. Today, I have both Brandon and Zane Hunt here with me today. They are the founders and owners of Via's 313 Pizza, and very excited to hear their story. Kind of looking through, LinkedIn profiles, things like that. It looks like y'all have had some awesome experience over the last several years of growing, kind of being in the food industry here in the Austin area. So excited to dive into that conversation and learn a little bit more about how y'all have gotten to the point where you are today, the ups, the downs, the challenges, the fun stuff, all of that kind of stuff, and just really hear the stories and the journey. So overall, thank you so much for being here today and taking the time to sit down with me. I'm going to kick it over to whoever wants to kind of jump in first, but why don't you just give us a quick background of the business, give us a little bit of background on who you are, and we'll kind of take it from there.
I'll let you lead.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, so Tanner, as you mentioned, I mean, Via 313 Pizza, we opened in December of 2011 here in Austin with a small trailer over on the east side of Austin, 6th and Waller. And we've been at it for, a little over 11 years now. The origin story really comes from a place of me moving down to Austin in the summer of 2009 from Detroit. And I obviously should take a half step back and acknowledge me. Brandon's my brother, and we grew up together. We're 5 years apart. And growing up together, we leaned on each other hard. I mean, a single mom raised us, and we had each other. We had some friends and stuff too, but we leaned heavy on each other too. And so leaning so heavy on each other growing up, I think we had a lot of conversations about potentially owning some sort of business together, not knowing what that might be. Just the idea that I feel like probably because we have so much in common and our brains are similar. We go about our business differently, but that's good. It's complementary, but we have a lot in common too. We share a common goal, common goals very often. So we had all these different ideas, and maybe Brandon remembers different ideas we've had. But like for instance, Brandon knew somebody that was an entrepreneurial type of mind who owned a pool hall, right? And we like to shoot. We like billiards, so we were around this. And the guy was, George Marvaso is his name, actually, right, Brandon? And
yeah,
got a guy that shared with, as Brandon was a teenager, he shared his business plan with Brandon. Little things like that probably propelled us forward. Just they're little things, but they're important. And we talked about owning a sports card store. Maybe we both collect sports cards. I mean, just sporting goods. I mean, all these different things, right? And it took me moving down to Austin in the summer of 2009. I'm entrenched in my career, which at that time is probably my second or third career at that point, which was IT at that point, RFID specifically. I had moved down to summer 2009 with my wife and 2 children. Brandon was still in Detroit, managing restaurant / bar / nightclub, as the day progressed. And both of us have roots in pizza. Both of us have roots in the restaurant and hospitality industry. So that's in our DNA from the time we were teenagers. And when I moved down in 2009, just in the most earnest way possible, I'm just seeking out things that remind me of home. And I read these stories all the time about people moving to Austin and changing the culture of Austin. And I mean, we do have a bit of an issue with that, I guess, to a degree. It seems like it's accelerated in the last 5 years or so. But Brandon and I, we talk about this thing. It's like, nah, we just want to enhance what Austin has to offer. It was a barbecue and Tex-Mex town, I think, largely at that point, and a little bit of pizza on the scene. A few spots doing good work, but it's kind of a sleepy pizza town at that point, I think. So Brandon's back in Detroit. I'm here, and I started telling him, look, Southeast Michigan's kind of a pizza hotbed. We took that for granted growing up. It definitely was not a pizza hotbed down here in Austin. So I was just setting out to try to find places that reminded me of home, as simplistic as possible with that statement. And Brandon's in that restaurant and bar industry up in Detroit. So the conversation started to go, well, maybe we could do something in Austin. But to do that, Brandon's going to have to uproot his life and come to Austin. And that's a big, there's a lot of risk there. And it's never lost on me. I always feel like, when it comes to, obviously we're entrepreneurial minds. We're not, I wouldn't say we're risk averse, obviously, because we started businesses, but we're pretty calculated about what we do. And so this idea of Brandon moving here and uprooting his life and starting over with nothing, it always weighed heavy on me. Like, that's a major risk. I had a job when I moved here, or a career when I moved here, and it moved with me. So, I always say, Brandon, you deserve a lot of credit for that. He doesn't like to take the credit, but that's the truth.
It was the timing was right. I was pushing 30 years old, partying with a bunch of 21-year-olds, and it was time for a change. So it made a lot of sense on paper to me to get out of the bar world. But so I moved about a year later after him. And I actually had a harder time finding a job than I thought I would, getting, because I have tattoos on my hands. And I know Austin's a little forward thinking, but still running a nightclub and then coming to Austin and trying to work at a corporate restaurant or even a small restaurant chain. They didn't care about my nightclub experience. And if I went to go work at a place that did, they didn't like tattoos. So just felt like it was always something when I moved here. And it took me getting fired from my job at Freebirds. Thank you, Freebirds. I remember calling my brother on the way home. I think I was crying, just saying, like, I just can't do this anymore. I can't go look for another job. I can't, because we were sitting on the business plan. We had the recipes all figured out. We needed that next kick in the butt, and getting fired from my job was the kick in the butt we needed to just go. So figured out I needed to make about $250 a week cash to sustain my wild lifestyle here in Austin, Texas. And we opened that trailer with a $10,000 loan. I put in 10,000 and he put in 10,000. So we opened that. We figured, we'd have $30,000 into this business. If it fails, we could sell everything for $30,000 and at least get our money back. And honestly, we never looked back. It took me about a year to get over $250 a week to get a whopping $500 a week, but I wouldn't have changed anything. I know he feels the same way. He was working 18-hour days, 5 days a week for free at night, at least. And I don't recall it ever being bad or hard, it was hard, but not like in a unrewarding way. It's just all adrenaline. It was quite incredible.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I look back on those years now. I'm 46 now. And I look back on those years, which, was only 12, 13 years ago. But Tanner, I'm like, how did I do that? How did I work so much? I feel like I don't have the energy now for something like that, but it was pure adrenaline. When you look back, doing something for yourself is so rewarding. I mean, doing things for other people is rewarding too, but I'm talking about in the corporate sense. Starting your own business and doing it for yourself, man, that is a massive adrenaline rush. Talking to customers who are really into what you're trying to do and getting that positive feedback. Maybe the two of us weren't coming from a place where in our day jobs prior we were getting that. So that's immensely rewarding.
Yeah, and I think for me too, I was a serial job hopper. So the idea of I don't have to update my resume and go look for a job potentially ever again was I didn't care what the dollar amount was. I just never wanted to have to do that again.
Oh man, isn't that such a fun, freeing sense of freeing sense of everything. Just being able to say, nope, this is for us now. It's not for anybody else. And no, that's awesome. I gotta congratulate the two of you in making the transitions that you've done. If I know there's a lot of folks that do listen to this that have moved across country or moved across the world or things like that. But for those that haven't, making that transition in any way, shape, or form, whether you've got a plan and a job or not, it's always a big transition, a big leap of faith. I remember So I'm originally from North Iowa, so up in the Midwest. I know, I'm very glad that I'm down here, and even with a little bit of ice and such the last couple of days, way better than shoveling snow, feet of snow for 6 months out of the year. But making that trip down here to Texas, and there was something that my dad had told me, which was, I said, well, what if it doesn't work out? What happens then? He's like, yeah, but what if it does? What if it does all work out? What is that like then? It's like, oh,
We had the same discussions. I mean, our parents and grandparents both thought we were crazy.
I mean, they absolutely did. I don't think that they thought I was going to leave until I actually did. Like, even I told them into the summer of 18, I'm going to move next summer. And I had a year to put everything in motion, kids in school, all that stuff, job, all that stuff. And I think like a week before I left, maybe it hit them that I was being dead serious, which is really interesting, Brandon, if you think about it, because like our family, as much as Detroit is in our DNA. I mean, we wear it proudly, but our family has only been in Southeast Michigan for a couple generations, really. It's not like we have deep Detroit roots or something, but the plight that took our family to Southeast Michigan is not all that different from why we would leave Southeast Michigan. I mean, I love Detroit, but opportunity. It's always just about opportunity, and people moved there for opportunity after World War II. And I think, as you see, there's a lot of ex-Detroiters or expats that live all over the country for the same reason. So it's interesting.
So if I could, being mindful of time, and I want to make sure that we have some opportunity to kind of parse through a few more details here, and take me through. So got the business started, maybe got through kind of that first year or so. We're 11, almost 12-ish years into it today. What did that growth pattern look like? What were some of the biggest lessons you had to learn along the way, that really just came through experience or through others that were doing similar things to y'all? But what did what does the last 10 years look like in terms of kind of growing and scaling a business like this?
For me, it's just been kind of the willingness to say yes. I think we went from being scared to put ourselves out there, making that leap, to finding it rewarding, and then now putting ourselves out there every chance we get. So I find ourselves just saying yes to everything, and just making yourself available, whether it's helping other people or even reaching out to other people for help. We were pretty humble in the beginning. We still are, but I mean, we surrounded ourselves with the people that we wanted to be like, whether it be Tony Gimignani or even Jeff Smokovich. He had a great pizza place up in Telluride, and we just asked, Big Dave. He's a legend in the pizza scene. So we surrounded ourselves with all these great pizza makers that were doing what we wanted to do, and just asked a ton of questions. And again, I feel like just putting ourselves out there was the best thing we could have done.
It's awesome. I always like to ask the question of, I don't know, I have yet to find a business owner, entrepreneur that has had a perfectly linear, it's always been positive, everything's been great all the way through the journey. Usually there's some ups and there's some downs, some bigger, some smaller, that sort of thing. But has there been kind of one defining, or maybe a couple defining roadblocks or challenges that you've had to overcome? Maybe not problems per se, but just kind of challenges or roadblocks that you've had to overcome that has allowed you to continue your journey and become successful and get to the point where you are today.
Brandon, what comes to mind for you? I'll let you answer. I'm sorry.
We were pretty far along in it before I felt like, God, I remember being 5-6 years thinking, wow, we really haven't made a misstep yet. Like, there hasn't been any major roadblocks. There hasn't been any major challenges, just the normal stuff. I mean, we were very fortunate early on. I think, not to get all personal, but you going through cancer was probably the first major roadblock of like, how are we going to, what's the day-to-day going to look like, and who's going to do what, and how much time do you need to recover, and all that stuff. That was probably the first roadblock for me. Do you have something else that stands out?
No, in fact, I don't have much to offer, Tanner, on this question. I think about this sometimes, and is it really true that we haven't had a lot of roadblocks? Have we been that fortunate, or are we that naive to tell ourselves we create this story where things are good, we're just moving forward? Like, are there little roadblocks, little bumps? And of course there are. Anything big? I don't really think so. I mean, what Brandon said, it's true. I mean, I had stage 3 cancer like about 6 years ago, but it didn't affect the business. I mean, we were so fortunate as a company at that point to have a really good team, a really strong team, and we had a few locations. So, but if it would have happened in the early days, that would have been a major roadblock in the early days, because it was just the two of us doing 95% of the work, right? But yeah, I feel very fortunate for the timing on that. But
to your point, though, I mean, yes, there was little things along the way. Like, we weren't busy enough to get a food truck, so we bought a truck and went to the food distributor and picked it up ourselves. So of course there was little challenges along the way, but it just felt like that's what we're going to have to do. I'm going to have to drive to Central Market every morning if we want vegetables, and I'm going to have to drive to US Foods to get food every morning if we want to open, and I got to get there early to make dough. And it just felt like that was the part of the business.
Again, I'm gonna use the word naive. We were a little naive, probably. We were very grounded, and we were running off that adrenaline, Tanner. So it's like we're just going to move forward, and we're not really going to let too much stop us or stand in our way. And we did it with a really positive, which is tough, because I don't know if being positive is the thing that comes natural to us coming from Detroit. I think we're probably a little rough around the edges. So it's a work. It's constant work. And heck, I mean, I don't know. To Brandon, your point, I mean, like, those things now, that all the little things we used to have to do when we started the business, and we just did it. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that's everybody's story, right? But we just did it. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just, I knew I was going to eat dinner at 3 a.m. It just, you made that
just
part of your life.
Yeah, and we also knew what we were going through wasn't permanent, or at least it wouldn't be permanent. We were going to work our tails off to make sure it wasn't permanent, right? And in that way, we're really, really fortunate when I look back on our story, that we had a few months where it was slower, and then South by Southwest hit, the first South by Southwest that we were open in 2012. There was a lot of South by Southwest activity over by our trailer. There was a lot of concerts going on, and it brought us a lot of really quick attention and a lot of fresh eyes on us. And I think those early days is probably what put us on the map quicker than maybe we thought it would happen. But it wasn't, it was very organic. The growth has been very organic, but it was never more than we could handle. We just constantly making incremental adjustments and trying to improve. I think that's one of probably the lessons in this whole story is not sitting still. Constantly trying to just address things and move forward, and it's just growth. It's growth. Being of a growth mindset, which again doesn't come super natural to us. So it's a learned thing, I think, for us.
I love that, and I've got to highlight a couple things that I've picked up from this conversation, here so far. I mean, one of them being having gone through a challenge like battling cancer and things like that, and knowing that it wasn't a massive issue with the business per se, and it was because that you've taken the time to build up team, and you've got you're surrounded by that. It's not just the two of you that was responsible for everything, and making that comment of if this would have happened right towards the beginning, that would have been a much different story. And I think that's oftentimes can be lost in translation for those that are growing business, and when is it right to start building a team and having people around that you don't do all of the work. So I wanted to highlight that point, because I think it's important to kind of highlight that one. And towards the beginning of the conversation, And it's always fun to have kind of two business partners on the call. Like myself, I've got three other business partners in our business, and learning to communicate with one another, having complementary skills and kind of ways of doing things. And that was the thing I just wanted to hit on here, and just kind of ask some questions about. How important do you think it was for y'all's success to have a slightly different way of looking at things, or having those complementary skills versus the potential of having, two business partners that think exactly the same way, and that sort of thing? What what impact do you believe that had on y'all's success?
I think it was huge for us. So many times people say, like, I can't imagine working with a family member. I would kill them. And I'm sure there's times that we've wanted to kill each other, but we also, over that it was all early on too, learning how to deal with each other. Like, I know that he's a little more calculated, and he's going to need a little bit more time to think about things in every little detail. And that's what makes us better, is because it's already been vetted in his brain for us to move forward. And he knows that I want to just shoot from the hip all the time, and can be sloppy, but I push him to move a little bit faster. So, knowing how each other work and being respectful about that, it just worked really well for us. It didn't happen right away. We had some pretty big fights early on, but with maturity and all these new emotions of owning a new business, I think we've learned to adapt, and
years of therapy. Yeah.
Yeah, years of therapy. That was after we started making a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Could get a therapist, but we both have gravitated towards things that each other don't want to do. So, he tackles one side of the business and I tackle the other side, and it's just worked extremely well for us. I always say we have this. I'm sorry, I had to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
We always had this thing there. I'll ask one time, or he'll ask one time. And if he says no, and I'll ask a second time, and he'll be like, man, I really don't want to do it. I got to be honest with you. If you ask a third time, then it's like, if it's that important to you, just do it. I just don't, I'm not going to fight about it. And we've always operated like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I appreciate your answer, and I feel exactly the same way as you, Brandon. We both had, and I'm drawing a blank right now on the names of a couple of books. We read some, business books, or even going back to like Carnegie stuff. There's Think and Grow Rich, and there's How to Win Friends and Influence People. All these books that I think are actually really important, and they're classics for a reason, right? Somewhere along the way, we both picked up on this idea or mantra that you surround yourself with successful people, or you surround yourself with people that you want to emulate, right? But you also need to stay humble enough and down to earth enough to not think that you've got the answer for everything. And we both, from early days, I think we're pretty good at that. And as the business grew, of course, then you see gaps in the business. You're like, man, we really need to hire the things that we're not good at. There's things that we've been faking it on for a while, but we really need to hire a professional at this point, or whatever that. And I think sometimes entrepreneurs or business owners can get themselves in trouble by thinking that they're really good at everything, or a lot of things. Honestly, I don't think I'm very good at a lot of things. So I'm gonna have to hire a lot of people. I think it's how I feel, and that's okay. It just makes the team stronger. And Brandon's kind of similar in that way, where he thinks about himself the same way. And man, that's important. That's a really important part of our story. I think.
My greatest gift in business is I'm pretty lazy, so I want to hire it out pretty fast.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Oh man, that's a fun way to look at it. The number of business owners I've talked to over the years that are just afraid to hire the next people. They think they have to do all the work themselves, versus I just want to hire it out so I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And I had heard something, I think earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, and it was even if you are really good at everything, right? Just if we could assume that was true, is 100% of your capacity ever going to be as good as 10 people that are 80% as good as you?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. I mean, I think we used to obsess over that 100%. We used to always say that we operated at about 95% of what we wanted to do. And when we got bought by a private equity, the guy that was approached us said, I need you guys to get a little bit more comfortable around 80, 85, because we'll be lying to you if we thought we were going to be operating this high as we scale as fast as we're scaling right now. So it's just being honest with it and accepting it, you know, and not trying to lose sleep over it.
Well, gentlemen, I like I said, I want to be respectful of time. I know we've kind of gone a little bit longer here. So I always like to finish with one specific question, but before I jump into that, tell our viewers, tell the listeners where they can find out more information if they want to get an amazing slice of pizza and go through that process. Where can they go to find out more information? How can they follow y'all? How can they connect with y'all? Kind of give us the details on where to find you.
I mean,
Yeah, okay.
I was gonna say, I'm prone to say the website address. I don't know if anybody uses websites anymore though.
Make sure you HTTP it so they can get to it.
/ /
Yeah.
via313.com, obviously, and then all the major social media platforms. We've got some level of presence to one degree or another on all of them. So that's the easiest place to find us. But hopefully, we'll be coming to a town near you soon with the growth pattern that Brandon mentioned that we've got. I mean, we have a number of locations here in Austin, Central Texas. We'll eventually have 3 or 4 in San Antonio. We have 2 right now. We're in Salt Lake City, a couple locations, the Phoenix area, Scottsdale, Las Vegas coming, Kansas City's coming, Denver's coming. I may have forgotten somewhere, something along Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas, Houston, San Antonio.
Yeah, Houston, San Antonio.
Yeah,
so, we've got a really aggressive game plan ahead of us for growth. And we're right at the cusp. We're at like 13 locations right now, and we'd like to be somewhere in that 30 to 40 range eventually. So hopefully we won't be too far from wherever you are at some point.
Beautiful.
Personally, we're pretty low key. So you can find us on LinkedIn, Brandon Hunt, Zane Hunt. That's probably the easiest way to find us.
Oh, personally, for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
LinkedIn all the way.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure to link all of this as much as I can in the description of the video below. For those of you that are in the Central Texas area, definitely go check them out. They do have a handful of different locations. I think, is it as far north as Round Rock? Do you have anything further north than that at this point? Or is that the furthest north in the kind of Austin metro so far?
Yeah. Cedar Park, Round Rock up that way.
Okay.
But
cool.
Hey, my father-in-law lives in Sun City up there, Tanner. He would love to have us in Georgetown.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, I'm going to ask you guys each this question. You can answer it individually, but this is how I like to always kind of wrap up these conversations. But at the end of the day, Zane, we'll start with you. What is most inspiring to you today?
Oh man, jeez.
Oof.
Ask Brandon first.
No, I'm not ready. We're gonna need another 30 minutes.
Yeah, right. Oh man. Oh. I feel ill prepared, Tanner. I gotta be honest with you.
And he
That's what
said
makes
the
these
question.
fun. That's why I love this question. You either get something right away or a little bit of contemplation, and it's all right. You can always change your answer later.
What do you got, Brandon? I'm putting you on the spot.
Honestly, I'm trying not to be too cheesy.
That's my problem too.
But we're at the point in our life. I kind of told you this on the phone, Tanner. Is like, I feel like we're almost on the downside of our career in a good way. That I feel like if we can inspire someone, that is what gets me excited every day right now. Is if we can be the Tony Gimignani for someone, or the Big Dave for someone that wants to start a pizza concept or a bar concept, or I don't know if much else other than bars and restaurants, but if we can inspire someone else, that's kind of what gets me going these days.
Love that.
Yeah, I actually largely feel the same way. I don't think I do a very good job of doing that, and I probably you do better than I do.
I try to be available. That's all I can do.
Yeah. But I think because that's so rewarding. I mean, that's just gratitude, man. That's probably something that we need more of in our lives to live happier lives. And that's the way to do it. I feel like we probably don't have a lot to offer a lot of people. That's what I tell myself. But, if we can inspire the next group of people behind us to do some semblance of what we've done, that would be really rewarding. I don't know. My advice on all that would be do it. If you've got a thought, just do it. If you want to start a business, just do it. Time's wasting. Just do it.
We've always said we can't tell you what to do, but we can tell you what not to do, and that puts people off. So that's the only advice we can give you.
Sometimes that's the best advice there is. It's you got to learn those lessons of what not to do. I mean, that's where all the learning tends to happen anyway.
In the pizza industry specifically, to circle back to your actual question, I'm actually inspired by the current crop of pizza makers that are out there doing things. I see them on social media. We visit restaurants and pizza places sometimes, and it's just been the pizza industry's been taken in a different direction. Even though we've been at it for like 12 years, there's a whole crop of people behind us that are taking it in a different direction. I don't always love everything about it, but that's okay. I don't like everything about it before either. But there's a lot of good stuff going on, and that stuff pushes us and propels us to alter what we do and stay fresh and relevant. So, yeah, I mean, again, it gets back to that not resting on your laurels and continuing to be awed or inspired by what goes on in the industry. We definitely try to do that, and I think that's good for our business.
Amazing. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. This has been absolutely phenomenal. I have loved this conversation, every minute of it. So I appreciate you both taking the time to sit down and chat. I think it's I always say, these conversations will resonate, but I think there's a dynamic when you've got, two business owners that are also family members, being able to kind of share that type of story that hits a little bit differently than some of the other stories out there. So I appreciate you taking the time to share it with us today and investing the time. So thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you, man.
Tanner, I appreciate you thinking of us and reaching out. It's always nice to be thought of. So thank you.